Thank you, Jim. Thank you, everyone. I really want to thank the sponsors for putting this on and inviting me over to speak. And just a couple things to start out. I don't know if you noticed that it said on a previous slide, I was from the city of Oregon, Portland. So it's the city of Portland in the state of Oregon in the U.S. But since I'm sometimes referred to as opposite Tom, that seems to fit just right with that observation. Also, I want to let you know that the title on your program says Integrating Water and Vegetation to Improve City Health is what we are trying to do, but that's not the title that I ultimately chose for this presentation. So Tom changes his mind and forgets to tell people about that. So let me see. Forward to this. The other part about the work that I've been doing, and it really relates to this concept of pragmatism, is that I am a landscape architect. I try to listen to ecologists and learn from them and developers and actually everybody else. And also, I try a lot of these things in my backyard. So I have my own sort of backyard laboratory, as some people refer to it. So in the photo here on the right is my garage eco roof, which was constructed in 1996. And then on the left is my first rain garden, which was constructed in 1993. And the pottery there is just for effect, the aesthetic, the symbolism there. And I do try to do both, think about the aesthetic as well as the ecological function. Now, in this presentation, this is Crater Lake, so if you ever come to Oregon, if you missed this and you haven't been there in July for our bicycle tour, then this is the one place to go. But I'll give you some background into how I got here and how we've been doing this. A term I just realized, what I'm calling sudden intuitive realization. Hope you don't mind, I use the acronym SIR. So, ideas, tests, and results as it relates to what the city has done, as well as myself, economics, and then the citywide application of these ideas, which will be green roofs. And if I use the term eco-roof, I'm referring to an extensive green roof. And then other city stormwater approaches, because we were sued by an environmental group in 1991 to stop discharging effluent from our combined sewer system, which we learned from Europe how to do, actually from the eastern United States, and they brought it from Europe. At any rate, a lot of our municipalities in the United States have this problem. I know you have this problem in many areas as well. So the story starts actually very, to me, it's like a wonderful thing. I actually want to just sit here and watch all of this. I was thinking how I'd like to be just over there watching this whole event, which I'll do after I finish speaking. But I read this book in 1974, and it's called Choose Life. It's from a dialogue between one of your countrymen, Arnold Toynbee, who was a historian, and a philosopher named Daisaku Ikeda. And this was in 1972. Daisaku Ikeda was 44. Arnold Toynbee was 83 years old. Ikeda had read Toynbee's work quite a bit, and they somehow found each other and had this dialogue here in London. And one of the quotes that I thought was really pertinent was what Toynbee said then was the threat to mankind's survival can only be removed by a revolutionary change in part in individual human beings. And then if we are to create living environments in which human beings can lead happy lives, we must plan cities and provide policies that restore harmony with nature. And this really affected me in 1974 when I read this. And little did I know that 36 years later, I would be standing here with all of you thinking about these issues. This is just a quick, I'm sorry you may not be able to see that too well. I apologize for having this photo of it before us. But these are just some events that happened in Portland. So stormwater, my first stormwater project was in Orlando, Florida in 1978. Exploration into the Botanic Garden parking lots in 1980. This museum parking lot. And then another person from London, with the London Ecology Unit, actually, I don't know if it still exists here or not, but he came to Portland, and he's the one that sort of put this idea in my mind about vegetation, because they were about a book called Green Building, I think, is the title of it. so I was so moved by this that we actually purchased 600 copies of that book, and we were the largest purchaser of the book in the world at that time. Anyway, we had a conference in 1996. And that's when I had my sudden intuitive realization, which was that idea, and I'll explain that. So we'll get to that. Anyway, I began some backyard experiments, my roof of my garage, city management in 1999, first city test of the Nika roof in 1999, an official test besides my garage. This was where we actually had our staff go out and do it. The Bureau of Environmental Services handles stormwater, sanitary sewage, combined sewers, and now what we call issues in watershed health. We built the roof. We've been monitoring on Hamilton buildings since 2002. The photo in the background is what Portland looked like in the year 1800. Nice. This is what we do. We all do this. We remove and alter vegetation, land, hydrology, and wildlife when we build our cities. The city in rough numbers, 25% rooftops. You might have more rooftops here to your pavement than some of our cities. But anyway, about 25% pavement, gardens and parks, perhaps 20%, and other, I'm not sure, perhaps 10%. So the problem then, here's an older photo of our city. We're about 600,000 population now. We have 140 square miles. I have to change everything into metric. And of course, this idea of replacing these roofs in our country, 20 years is sort of a standard for commercial type buildings, and then buildings, others are maybe as low as 10 years before they need to be replaced. And some last 20 to 30 years eventually. And of course, there is very little biodiversity, but there is some here because there's water. So those mosquitoes, now that's biodiversity of a different sort. So anyway, that's not the idea. And then this idea of reflective roofing and washing roofs to get that reflectivity and maintain it is another issue with regard to water quality and the discharge of pollutants into our various types of systems, whatever we have, wherever we might live. So I'm not going to go through this because Simon covered most of this quite well, but we do have one issue that's extremely important is basement flooding, what we call basement backups. So when there's too much water in the system, the water being the sewage, actually backs up into people's homes in their basements. But this is not allowed by law, and then we have to work on this. We spend hundreds of millions of dollars to do this. And this is, we're spending $1.4 billion to build 4 tunnels that are something like this to solve this problem in what we now call the traditional gray approach. Now, just back to this idea, this supply chain, transforming a city forward. So we have to have our habitat, and can we incorporate nature? So this idea serves this sudden intuitive realization was that we just put this vegetation back. It's that simple. Just put the soil, the plants, the water, just integrate them and find ways to put it back. An eco roof or vegetated roofs is one way to do that. And then how is, and I'll show you some other examples. And then what if? So I think you guys, at least in London, are beyond the what if phase as what I refer to, because you're already seeing this as a viable approach. The other thing that we've done, and it appears you have too, but maybe some of you from other places, is to try it. Not necessarily start out with saying we're going to change our corporate position and say that we're going to do all our buildings. Let's try one building and see what happens, or the city, or others, and see what happens when you try these ideas. These are just 2 basic ideas, and this is the other thing that Mr. Ikeda, who I found to be quite helpful in my life experiences, having an idea and getting it out there and then carrying it through. So what's going to happen here in London or other places, once you start this, what's going to happen in the 5, 10, 20 years ahead? And what does it look like? And how we have to stick with these things. If we do them and leave them, we won't be able to come back. Although we might find ourselves like Mr. Calderin, that in Cuba, they have to fix everything because everything's broke. When it breaks, there's nothing else that we do because they didn't have any support when the Russians left. Anyway, it's a very interesting story. So, back in 1998, my wife and I, Sherry on the left, She was so gracious as to help me test my roof on the garage and found that, yes, it actually managed stormwater. I took that back into the Bureau, and then a year later we had our first demonstration project and began testing. Talking to engineers, any engineers here? A couple, tentative, yeah, thank you, you're welcome. I'm sure everybody's glad you're here. So we need to be able to demonstrate with information, and especially on these tests. So this is a simulated rainfall, and this is the blue is rainfall, the red is what would happen on a conventional roof, and the green is what happened on the Eco roof in this particular, on my garage. This is one of the new developments, similar to some of the projects that Sarah was showing. This is the airport. It's not all that good looking, and these are cedars, but it's like the airport, Port of Portland, kind of like these people are not what I ever imagined to put an Eco roof on. This is a large development with several Eco roofs. It's actually the largest conglomeration of Eco roofs in one development in the city. And then this is just some other examples, and then this is the other example. This, in our climate, it's believed that we can't have an Eco roof without irrigation. This particular roof has gone 3 years without irrigation. It's on one of our sewer pump stations. Very good place to test ideas that you don't have to worry about anybody seeing it. How many of you went to your sewer pump station recently? Now, and I'm going to go quickly. Those were just artificially installed on that last slide. Rain gardens, so I don't have a lot of room. This parking lot that you see here, all of the water drains into the landscape, into the vegetation. So I know you use the term suds, so in Portland it would be V/sud, because ours, the first thing you have to do if you're a developer, you have to use a vegetated approach to manage your stormwater. And if that's not possible, then you can use a non-vegetated approach. And that's what these are, kind of having a lot of fun, letting the water just shoot off the building. That's the courtyard planter, that's the stormwater facility. Same thing there. Changing our streets, we now have, what you're about to see, we have streets like this, converted to this. This is a landscape that infiltrates stormwater. We now have over 1,000 of these facilities in the city, and we're going to go thousands more, and we're transforming neighborhoods, and people love this because it's adding this garden component. Not everybody. We do have some people that say, no, I don't like that. But anyway, and then we test everything. And one way that we found for the engineers is we use fire hydrants. We thought, well, we can't wait 10 years or 25 years for the 25-year storm. We have to do the 25-year storm now so we know if they work. So we test them with fire hydrants, and they do work. Oh, I'm sorry. Anyway, so if you're interested in that, I'll let you know. These are just some photos of different locations, and these are just more photos of different locations where we're putting them in. It's always good to have before photos. And the one here on the right in the middle, right by the train, it's just, I thought, oh, that kind of reminds me of all these pictures I see of London. There was hardly any room for everything. And so that's actually a stormwater facility there between the train and the road. Now, I want to take time to say this very quickly. So we have all of these sewer areas or sewer sheds. This is about 2,000-acre sewer shed. It's the worst in the city. We have the worst problems with sewers backing up and everything. So we did on the left was the correction of these problems using the gray approaches, new pipes, bigger pipes, and everything else. It was going to cost $144 million for that neighborhood. We applied $11 million worth of green approaches to solve this problem. The gray came down and was $75 million. Total, $86 million to solve a problem that was originally going to cost $144 million by applying these green street facilities that I just showed you, besides private property retrofits, parking lots and things. And then gray to green, because we saved so much money there, the mayor said, let's put the money into doing all these approaches, so we're buying the last remaining pieces of land that we can protect, changing culverts so we have fish passage, removing invasive species, 43 acres of eco roofs, tree planting, and actually green streets. One final minute. So we give people money, we charge people money for their stormwater in their impervious area, and then we actually, if you do something to control your stormwater, we give you money back. Not all of it, but we give you some of it. Of course, pavement, rain garden, retrofitting. This is a school. This is the retrofit. This is also, we found out, oh my gosh, it actually relates to urban heat island reduction. This is a transformation of the neighborhood. For 1 minute, this is where the creek, we daylighted the creek, which means the creek used to be in a pipe, and we daylighted the creek. This developer said, hey, that's good. I'll take advantage of this and with the marketing of my development. We take out streets. See that street? It's no longer there. It is being removed here, and this is what it turned into, which was a creek. We don't have too many of these, but we look for them. This is a rain garden. The students are from British Columbia, Vancouver. And I just got some photos I'm going to go through. That's the rain garden. Integrating stormwater management, not only the green roofs, but these developers integrate the stormwater management of the ground level plain as well. These are stormwater facilities, and if you didn't know it, you would just think it's a beautiful landscape. So that's one from above. And then we are trying to correct creeks. So on the right is the redevelopment of the creek. We put it back into the center of the old field. Trees are important, and one last quote, nothing was more generous or fair than nature. I thought that was a really interesting concept. And that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.